Hi everyone! So by now you should have a solid understanding of the 5 main ethical theories that we will be using throughout the semester. The first being Kantianism, the next two being act and rule utilitarianism, followed by social contract theory and virtue ethics. Today we are going to go over morality and law just a little bit, and then we're going to go into our first case study for the semester. So morality and law. What's important to understand about these two things is that what is legal and what is moral are two different things. An action may be immoral but legal, such as using your phone while you're driving or cheating on an exam. Now, it's not always legal to use your phone while driving anymore. A lot of laws across the United States have been updated in order to make using your phone while you're driving illegal. However, cheating on an exam, you're not going to go to jail for cheating on at least a standard normal exam that you have at a university, and it's technically legal, but it is definitely very immoral and will cause you problems at least at the university level. An action, however, may also be illegal but moral to take. So, for example, legal violations during the Jim Crow era, where you maybe protested against the segregation of those laws, or the protection of discriminated people in Nazi Germany, would have been moral actions, but in the context of the society they were in, would be considered illegal. So it's important to remember that ethical and legal behavior are not the same. Just because something is legal doesn't make it the right thing to do, and just because something is illegal doesn't mean that it's necessarily wrong. Legality does not determine our ethics or morality. However, our ethics and morality should probably determine what laws we put into place. That being said, it's not always true that good laws get made, right? So ethics and morality should be driving factors toward the laws that we make, but this isn't always true. So now let's dive into our first case study, where we actually look at the ethics of breaking the law in a small way. So the case, suppose you have a digital album by a popular band. Your friend asks if you would copy the album and give it to them, and you know that doing this would violate copyright law. Is it more ethical to provide your friend with a copy or abide by copyright law? I want you to take a minute and pause this video and think about the 5 ethical theories that we were presented with earlier in the semester and decide for yourself what you think each of these should be. When you're done, come back to this video and continue, and we'll go over how each theory can apply to this particular case. Hopefully you have done that and now you're back. So let's talk about social contract theory. So this is the first theory that we are interested in. In this theory, everyone bears certain burdens and receives certain benefits within a society. This includes, as a burden, the law. Now, the law isn't just a burden, it's also a benefit. If somebody breaks the law against you, it gives you recourse to get your property back if somebody stole something from you, or to recoup financial losses. The law is instituted to protect people's rights in this way, but it also means that you need to abide by it. And you should only ever break the law when you have a higher order moral obligation. And I think we can all agree that a higher order moral obligation does not apply in this particular scenario with a digital album. So, would it be more or less ethical to abide by the law or to refute the law and to give your friend a copy of the CD album? According to social contract theory and these particular aspects of it, it's more ethical to abide by the copyright law and refuse your friend. This is because the copyright law is there to protect people, and abiding by it is an important part of being in society. It gives great benefit to certain people, particularly creators, when you abide by copyright law, so they can reap financial rewards for the work that they put into producing work, and your friend doesn't really lose out on much. They never had anything to begin with. So next, let's look at rule utilitarianism. And we have to ask the question of what would happen if we always disregarded the law. If the rule was that we should always disregard copyright law, well, what would happen? If we follow this line of reasoning, we would come to the conclusion hopefully you'd come to the conclusion that not abiding by copyright law would lead to a lot of stealing and theft in both the digital realm and probably the physical realm as well. So if we say that everyone should steal, then there's the issue of, well, something that I have could be stolen from me, and that's not something that we really see as a positive. Also, the whole circular thing of if I steal something, someone else steals it from me, nobody's ever going to actually consume that media. Now, this doesn't necessarily apply, quite effectively to digital media, but the concept is still the same. If I create something and want to make money off of it, it's going to be important that copyright law is followed. So according to rule utilitarianism, it is more ethical to abide by copyright law and refuse your friend. This is because you want to make sure that everybody can gain the most benefit out of society. However, in act utilitarianism, we have a few more questions to consider. So what is the context of your friend wanting the album? Can they afford to pay for it? Would it bring them a lot of happiness? And is it their favorite band? Are they maybe sick? Is there something going on in their life where this album would, greatly impact their overall health and well-being? And is someone negatively impacted by the choice you make here? If the record company loses money, what's going to happen? Are they going to stop producing content? My friend might help sales increases, right? If I give them this album and they already weren't going to pay for it, well, maybe they're going to recommend the album to somebody else and they will pay for it. And will the city or local municipality spend any resources trying to catch me as a thief? It's unlikely that anyone's going to try to catch me if I'm sharing one particular album. My friend might help increase the sales of this album, so maybe the artist and band are going to benefit, and the record company isn't going to lose that much money from this one record sale loss. If my friend is, it's sick or otherwise in a down state, and this is going to bring them a lot of happiness, then it makes sense that I would give them this album. It also makes sense that I would give it to them in a lesser situation than that as well, if they're just perfectly normal and they just can't afford to pay for it. It brings them great happiness and it hurts very little of anybody else. Now, if you're looking at the book, you'll see that they actually put monetary value to the happiness of both the friend that you're giving this to and to the record company and band who might be losing money. So they put a dollar sign value on the utilitarianism aspect of this rather than just looking at it from a overall pleasure or happiness standpoint. They're looking at it from monetary value, which is another way we can use utilitarianism other than just looking at this abstract value of happiness. But in act utilitarianism, if we follow through with all of these questions, we can come to the conclusion that it's more ethical to give a copy of this digital album to my friend and disobey the law. But what about virtue ethics? What virtue is displayed by sharing a copy? Is it something that I would want other people to emulate? What virtue is displayed by abiding by the law? What are the different aspects here that are important? What about virtue ethics says that sharing or not sharing is going to make me an ethical person? So in order to answer this question, it's really important to answer the question of what virtues are important to being a good person? What virtues make you an ethical person? So I want you to think about this particular issue because the virtues that we highlight as what makes a virtuous person, what makes an ethical person, are going to be really important into how you apply virtue theory, virtue ethics in the future. So the next thing I want to ask you is what circumstances would change this case? I would like you to take this scenario and compare it against slightly different scenarios. For example, what if you got the album for free? It's not that it's got no copyright on it, but you didn't pay anything for it. What if your friend was dying or really sick and this was one of their favorite bands and they wanted to hear it? What if you got the album from somebody else? What if you created a physical copy of the album for use in your car and you later gave it to your friend because you weren't using it? And what if you don't agree with the copyright, or specifically you don't agree with DMCA, which is the Digital Millennium Copyright Act? So make sure that you're answering these questions and you know how you would approach this problem if we were to change the situation just a little bit, and evaluate where you're at with your ethics and your stances on this particular issue.